Welcome back to Warhorse, everybody, presented by Vintco. We're stoked to have those guys promoting and sponsoring this show and bringing you all kinds of amazing vintage motocross stuff. And I am joined by Norm Bigalow, our co-host, who happens to know just about everything there is about vintage motorcycles, including this 1967 Greeves 250 Challenger, which to me looks like something out of World War II that they ran mail with. I know I'm a little off on my years, but Norm, tell me about this thing, because you said at the time this was like as good as it got.
Yeah, as a kid growing up in SoCal with all the desert racing, motocross, early motocross, Greeves was the bike. The two-stroke hadn't really come to be, so there's a lot of four-strokes out there racing, big heavy things. Greeves was one of the first two-strokes, lightweight, reliable, handled pretty well. And they were winning in the desert, they were winning scrambles, early version of motocross. Gary Bailey dominated on these things. Another up-and-coming rider was Jim Wilson, dominated. They were a really, really good bike at the time. Some unique features on them, like the down tube was aluminum into the steel frame, very rigid with the leading link suspension. Motors were pretty fast, bulletproof. Tom had to have one for some reason, so this is the first bike in his collection. He didn't know he was going to have a collection. He just wanted one restored. Got a hold of this one. Got a couple of parts bikes. His friend Denny Berg had a restoration company, and Tom said, "Restore this Greeves for me." So Denny did an exceptional job on it. It became his one and only vintage bike at the time. And then the habit started, I guess.
Yeah, this was the beginning of the addiction for Tom White here at the early years of Motocross Museum. And just from, as a guy who didn't really know Greeves, this was before my time, the two-strokes really started taking over motocross in the early 70s. And so like you said, this was kind of ahead of that curve. And just looking at it, this shock, this front end is wild to me. You were showing me a little bit about how it works. There's like these rubber discs almost, and they made those things flex, and one side was damping, one side was rebound.
Well, the early version frame was that way. This was the later model, which just took a regular motocross shock, let's say a Girling. So it had a spring force as well as rebound dampening in the shock. The early Greeves didn't have that. It had a coiled up rubber biscuit, let's say, in there, and the damper was just inside the...
Yeah, that was the older ones. You're right. Okay. Well, so anyway, it's very
state of the art.
State of the art. And then the way this whole front end of the frame is cast aluminum and then bolts in, you were saying that was again way ahead of its time. There wasn't removable subframes, but this is kind of as close as you got, and way in front of other people. Yeah,
and the chassis was extremely rigid. So it was good for desert racing. There wasn't a lot of motocross at the time, so desert, it win overall, beat the Triumphs, the big 650 Triumphs and mattresses and stuff like that. So yeah, this is an important piece in motocross history.
Yeah, and some of the other things that we were talking about that were sort of in front of other manufacturers, kind of the box swing arm.
Yeah.
I even noticed this aluminum plate in front of the carburetor, because you'd have those fins, the hot air would be coming out of that, and this plate, I'm sure, just routed that hot air around so it didn't heat up the fuel.
A lot of things, common sense stuff, like the bungee cord holding the gas tank on. That's awesome.
It's a beautiful bike, and Dave Bickers, Ryan Wade, Gary Bailey, as you mentioned, some of the guys who raced this machine, and Danny Berg did a great job restoring this.
And thanks to Denny, because it kick-started Tom to get another Greeves. He loved Greeves. He's a lot in his collection, and it went from there and kept going.
Well, it's a beautiful bike, and again, I guess the biggest thing for us here is this is what started the Tom White early years of Motocross Museum. So an incredible piece, and it's got a lot of historical significance here for this collection. So hope you guys enjoyed walking around this. I love just seeing these early machines that the early men of motocross, grew up on. And I'll mention one more thing that was way ahead of its time. This is the first set of pro tapers. Look at this, no crossbar. I always thought those old handlebars that had the big steel bar across the front and they wouldn't run a pad, I just thought that was crazy. Way ahead of their time. This way, if you got kicked, you just flew right through. You didn't hit anything. Saved your knees, Brilliant. Brilliant designing by the British. So, beautiful motorcycle. Thank you, Norm. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, presented by Vintco. If you guys have any kind of vintage motorcycle needs, get over to vintco.com. Follow them on Instagram. They've got some great content on there, and anything you need at vintco.com. Check those guys out. Thanks for tuning in. Lots more to come. See you next time. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, comment what you thought, and share it with your friends.